main subject stands on the edge of the 400-foot vertical cliff of Hacksaw Ridge. The camera captures the sheer height and the smoke rising from the battlefield above. The subject's eyes are fixed on the horizon as wind whips through his hair. The subject adjusts his medic kit, checking the bandages and morphine. He is the only man in the unit without a rifle strapped to his shoulder. His hands are steady as he prepares for the climb of his life. A wide shot shows the cargo net draped over the jagged coral rock face. The main subject begins his ascent, pulling himself up the rotting ropes. Below, the Navy ships fire massive shells that shake the very earth. The subject reaches the top and rolls onto the blood-soaked soil. Bullets snap through the air, hitting the rocks just inches from his head. He stays low, crawling through the mud toward the sound of screaming. The subject finds his first patient lying in a shallow shell crater. He ignores the explosions to apply a tourniquet with clinical precision. The main subject's face is a mask of intense, calm concentration. A Japanese machine gun nest opens fire from a hidden pillar. The subject throws himself over the wounded man to act as a shield. Dirt kicks up around them as the impossible odds begin to set in. The subject drags the wounded soldier back toward the cliff's edge. He realizes the traditional stretcher method will not work on this terrain. He begins looking for a way to lower the man safely to the bottom. The main subject finds a sturdy tree stump near the cliff's precipice. He begins to loop a heavy hemp rope around the wood to create an anchor. His movements are quick, calculated, and driven by a sense of urgency. The subject loops the rope around the soldier's chest and legs. He whispers a word of encouragement to the terrified man. The main subject prepares to test the first descent into the abyss. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject leans back, taking the full weight of the soldier on his shoulders. He begins lowering the first man down the 400-foot drop. The subject pulls the empty rope back up, hand over hand. His palms are already beginning to chafe against the rough fiber. He doesn't wait to rest, immediately diving back into the thick smoke. The main subject crawls through a field of debris and fallen equipment. He finds two men pinned down by a sniper in a nearby ridge. He uses a smoke grenade to create a temporary screen for their movement. The subject treats a head wound while mortar rounds impact nearby. He uses his own body to block the flying shrapnel from his patient. The camera focuses on the red cross on his helmet, bright against the gray. The subject carries a soldier in a fireman's lift across the open ground. Every step is a gamble against the hidden enemy spider holes. The main subject's breathing is heavy, but his pace never slackens. The subject reaches the cliff again and secures the next man into the knot. He feels the rope burn into his skin as he lowers the second survivor. The men at the bottom look up in awe at the lone figure above. A technical diagram appears on screen showing the specific bowline not used. The graphic highlights how the subject's childhood knot was perfect for this. The main subject's hands move with instinctive, rapid speed. The subject returns to the front line, which is now completely breaking. American troops are retreating in a panic, fleeing the Japanese camp. The subject is the only one moving toward the enemy fire. The subject finds a group of 4 men abandoned in a trench. He tells them he is staying until every one of them is safe. The main subject becomes a solitary pillar of hope in the chaos. The subject treats a sucking chest wound with a piece of plastic. He works in total silence as enemy soldiers pass just yards away. The tension is thick as the subject holds his breath in the shadows. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject hauls the next man toward the cliff as flares light up the sky. He refuses to stop, even as the official retreat order is sounded. The subject is now operating completely alone behind enemy lines. He moves like a ghost through the burnt-out landscape of the ridge. The main subject's primary focus remains on the one more rule. The subject finds a soldier who had previously bullied him in training. Without hesitation, he begins treating the man's shattered legs. The subject's character shines through the grime of the battlefield. The subject drags the heavy soldier through a patch of jagged coral. His own boots are starting to tear apart from the constant friction. The main subject's physical endurance is being pushed past human limits. A grenade bounces near the subject's feet as he reaches the cliff. He kicks it away just in time. the blast throwing him against a rock. He shakes off the concussion and immediately grabs the rope. The subject's tally of lives saved reaches 20 as the sun sets. Night brings a new kind of terror to the escarpment of Hacksaw Ridge. The main subject uses the darkness to mask his movements. The subject finds a man blinded by white phosphorus and leads him. He acts as the soldier's eyes, whispering directions through the dark. The camera stays tight on the subject's calm/guiding hands. The subject discovers a wounded Japanese soldier and offers him water. He treats the enemy's wounds with the same care as his own men. This scene highlights the main subject's unwavering moral compass. The subject lowers 2 men at once to save time as patrols close in. The weight is immense, causing the rope to groan under the tension. The main subject's muscles quiver with the effort of the hold. The subject pauses for a split second to pray for more strength. His face is covered in a mixture of oil, blood, and sweat. He turns back to the fire, a lone silhouette against the burning ridge. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject has now saved 40 men while being hunted by the enemy. Each descent of the rope is a victory over the impossible odds. The subject crawls into a cave to pull out 3 men hiding in the back. He avoids a Japanese patrol by seconds, hiding behind a fallen beam. The main subject's heart beats visibly against his thin uniform. The subject's hands are now bleeding through his makeshift bandages. He uses his shirt to wrap his palms so he can keep pulling the rope. Nothing will stop the subject from finishing the task at hand. The graphic shows the map of the ridge and the 75 paths the subject took. It visualizes the sheer distance he covered on foot while carrying men. The main subject is at the center of this web of survival. The subject finds an officer who is losing blood at an alarming rate. He uses a belt to create an emergency bypass for the wound. The subject's medical knowledge is as vital as his physical courage. The subject lowers the officer as the Japanese begin a final sweep. He can hear the bayonets clinking against the rocks nearby. The main subject remains focused on the rope, refusing to rush. The subject is spotted by an enemy sniper who fires 3 times. The bullets miss by fractions of an inch, hitting the wood anchor. The subject doesn't even flinch, his eyes locked on the cliff edge. The subject drags 2 more men through a field of abandoned tanks. The wreckage provides the only cover from the machine gun fire. The main subject's movement is a master class in tactical survival. The subject reaches the count of 60 lives saved as dawn breaks. The morning light reveals the sheer scale of the carnage he navigated. He looks exhausted, his body trembling, but his eyes remain sharp. The subject prepares for his final trip into the kill zone. He knows the Japanese have reinforced the area where the last men are. The main subject takes a deep breath and disappears into the fog. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject reaches the final group of survivors and signals the bottom. He is now a legend among the men waiting on the beach below. The subject finds the last 3 men huddled behind a ruined wall. He loads the most severely injured man onto his back first. The main subject's legs are like lead, but he forces them to move. The subject navigates a narrow ledge while carrying the weight of 2. One slip would send them both plunging 400 feet to their deaths. The camera looks down, emphasizing the terrifying height of the ridge. The subject reaches the rope station for the final time of the day. The rope is frayed to its last few strands of structural integrity. He lowers the men with agonizing slowness to prevent a break. The subject is finally hit by a grenade while shielding his patients. He's thrown into the air, his leg peppered with jagged shrapnel. Even in intense pain, the main subject checks his patients first. The subject refuses to be evacuated until the last man is off the ridge. He crawls toward the stretcher, his own blood trailing behind him. His commitment to his fellow soldiers is absolute and unwavering. The subject is lowered down the cliff by the men he just saved. The roles are reversed as the survivors now protect their savior. The main subject looks up at the ridge one last time in the light. The subject arrives at the field hospital at the base of the cliff. Doctors are stunned to see the man they thought was a coward. The main subject simply asks for his Bible, which he lost in the fight. A search party goes back up the ridge just to find his Bible. They find it near the stump where he saved 75 souls. This moment cements the spiritual nature of the subject's journey. The subject is seen resting in a hospital bed, covered in bandages. The commander who tried to court-martial him comes to apologize. The main subject offers a weak smile and a handshake of forgiveness. 75 lives. One unarmed man, under a hail of lead. The impossible became a miracle. The tally is officially confirmed. 75 lives saved by one man. The main subject has achieved what was deemed tactically impossible. The subject is sent back to the United States to recover from his wounds. He is greeted as a hero, though he consistently rejects the title. The main subject insists that the real heroes were those who didn't return. The subject receives the Medal of Honor from President Harry Truman. The camera focuses on the blue ribbon being placed around his neck. The main subject stands tall, despite the cane he now needs to walk. Archival footage shows the subject smiling humbly during the ceremony. He is the first conscientious objector in history to receive this honor. The subject's story begins to spread across the entire world. A graphic shows the technical impact of his rescue on military medicine. The DAS knot is analyzed for its simplicity and life-saving efficiency. The main subject's innovation is now part of military history. The subject returns to his small town and reunites with his wife. The scene is a peaceful contrast to the violence of Hacksaw Ridge. The main subject finds solace in the quiet life he fought to preserve. The subject spends his years visiting veterans and sharing his story. He uses his platform to preach peace and the value of every life. The main subject's legacy grows beyond the events of 1945. Historical photos of the 75 men he saved are shown in a montage. These are the fathers, grandfathers, and sons who lived because of him. The subject's impact is measured in generations of lives. The subject revisits Hacksaw Ridge decades later as an old man. He stands at the same cliff edge, now overgrown with quiet green vines. The main subject remembers the noise of the battle and the silence. A close-up of the subject's weathered hands shows the scars of the rope. They are permanent reminders of the night he refused to quit. The subject looks out over the ocean with a sense of final peace. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject's name is etched into the stone of military greatness. His story remains the ultimate testament to the power of conviction. A modern military instructor explains the DOS tactic to new recruits. He emphasizes that courage doesn't always require a weapon. The main subject's philosophy is taught to the next generation. A 3D map illustrates the golden hour of trauma care he mastered. By getting men off the ridge quickly, he beat the odds of infection. The main subject was a pioneer of rapid combat casualty evacuation. The camera pans over the various awards and medals the subject earned. Each one represents a life pulled from the jaws of certain death. The main subject's room is a museum of selfless service. We see a reenactment of the subject's training days at Fort Jackson. He is mocked by his peers for his refusal to touch a rifle. The main subject remains steadfast, showing strength in his silence. The subject's captain, who once called him a liability, gives an interview. He admits he was wrong, and that the subject was the bravest man he knew. The main subject's actions redefine the meaning of the word soldier. A split screen shows the subject on the ridge, V's, the subject at the White House. The contrast highlights the incredible journey of a humble medic. The main subject bridged the gap between pacifism and patriotism. The subject is shown teaching children how to tie the knots he used. He passes on the skill that saved 75 men on that cliff. The main subject's hands are slow now, but the knowledge is sharp. A montage of letters from the families of the survivors is displayed. They thank him for the lives they were able to live because of him. The main subject reads them quietly by the fireplace in his home. The subject's health begins to decline in his later years from war injuries. He faces his final battle with the same quiet dignity he showed in 1945. The main subject remains a man of deep and abiding faith. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The subject closes his eyes, knowing he fulfilled his mission on Earth. His legacy is a light that continues to burn for all who face impossible odds. The subject's story is translated into dozens of languages around the world. He becomes a global symbol for the helper archetype in times of war. The main subject's message of nonviolence resonates across borders. A technical comparison shows modern medic equipment versus the subject's kit. It highlights how little he had to work with during the 1945 rescue. The main subject achieved more with a rope than most do with technology. The subject is featured in a documentary about the Battle of Okinawa. Historians discuss how his presence changed the morale of the unit. The main subject was the heartbeat of a dying battalion. We see footage of the memorial dedicated to him at the ridge. Flowers are left by people from both the US and Japan. The main subject's compassion helped heal the wounds of two nations. A graphic shows the impossible ratio. 1 man versus 75 lives saved. The numbers are put into context with other historical rescue missions. The main subject stands alone at the top of the statistical mountain. The subject's favorite Bible verses are shown on screen in elegant text. They provide the context for why he did what he did without a gun. The main subject's spirit was his most powerful weapon. A wide shot of the Arlington National Cemetery shows his final resting place. The camera moves slowly over the white headstones of his brothers. The main subject is buried among the heroes he risked everything for. The subject's son speaks about his father's humility and strength. He describes a man who never raised his voice, but moved mountains. The main subject's family carries the torch of his incredible story. The camera returns to the edge of Hacksaw Ridge in the present day. The cargo net is gone, but the spirit of the rescue remains. The main subject's shadow still lingers over the coral rock. 75 lives. 1 unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The narrator reflects on how one person can change the course of history. The main subject proved that 1 man is enough to make a difference. The narrator asks the viewer, "What would you do with no weapon?" The question lingers over a shot of the desolate battlefield. The main subject's answer was to simply be a helper. The final sequence of the battle is shown in fast, rhythmic cuts. The rope, the mud, the fire, the blood, and the main subject's face. The intensity of the impossible night is recaptured one last time. The subject is shown standing on the ridge, looking out at the sea. The image fades from the 1945 version to the modern-day vista. The main subject is the bridge between the past and the present. The text overlay lists the key statistics of the Battle of Okinawa. It underscores just how rare a story like the subject's truly is. The main subject was a statistical anomaly in a sea of tragedy. The subject's Medal of Honor citation is read in a deep, formal voice, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life. The main subject's formal recognition is finally presented in full. The camera focuses on the faces of the descendants of those he saved, a massive crowd of people who wouldn't exist without him. The main subject's life is multiplied by thousands of others. The subject's final words to his unit are shared by a surviving veteran. "I'll be there for you," he had promised, and he kept his word. The main subject's integrity was his greatest strength. The screen shows a subscribe button over a shot of the subject's medic kit. The narrator teases the next episode about tactical innovation in World War II. The main subject's story is the first in a series of heroes. A final slow-motion shot shows the subject being lowered down the cliff. He looks up at the sky. A man who did the impossible and survived. The main subject's journey ends where it began, at the edge. 75 lives. 1 unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The tally of 75 confirmed survivors is displayed in bold white text. The main subject's name fades into a backdrop of historical archives. The camera captures a close-up of the medical supplies used that night. Discarded vials and stained gauze tell the silent story of the struggle. The main subject's resilience is evident in every piece of equipment. We see the subject return to his civilian job after the war. He works as a carpenter, his hands now building instead of bandaging. The main subject finds peace in the simple act of creation. A modern-day drone shot flies over the Midas. The terrain is still jagged and difficult to navigate. The main subject's physical feat is even more impressive from above. The narrator discusses the impact of DOS on conscientious objector laws. His service paved the way for others to serve their country with honor. The main subject changed the legal and moral landscape of the military. A series of black and white photos transitions into a full-color portrait. It shows the subject's life spanning from youth to a peaceful old age. The main subject's longevity is seen as a gift for a sacrifice. The music shifts to a triumphant, respectful orchestral crescendo. We see the subject being saluted by active duty soldiers at a parade. The main subject represents the timeless values of the armed forces. The camera focuses on the DOS, not one last time as it holds firm. It is a symbol of a man who refused to break under pressure. The main subject's simple rope became a lifeline for 75 souls. A final call to action appears. Who's the most heroic person you know? The comment section begins to fill with stories of modern-day helpers. The main subject's story encourages viewers to share their own heroes. A slow zoom out shows the entire ridge under a setting sun. The shadows grow long, but the top of the cliff remains illuminated. The main subject's legacy is the light that never goes out. 75 lives. One unarmed man. Under a hail of lead, the impossible became a miracle. The video ends with a single, powerful image of the subject's Bible. The screen fades to black as the orchestral music reaches its peak.